Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Professor Armen Marsoobian, who teaches at Southern Connecticut State University and has recently been to Turkey for the umpteenth time with a very interesting project. Armen, thank you for giving us the time. I know you've just gotten back and you're jet lagging.
Thank you. I'm pleased to speak with you again.
Armen, you and I met a year ago, a little more, when the first exhibition of your family's photographs was presented by Anatolu Kultur at the depot in Istanbul.
Yes.
And the title of this exhibition is Lost History Through the Lens of an Armenian Family, the Dildilian Brothers, is that right?
Well, it's the lost history of an Armenian family through the lens of the Dildilian photographers or something like that.
And who are the Dildilian photographers?
Well, my grandfather first started as a photographer in 1888, and he continued in Turkey until 1922 when he was forced to leave. But other members of the family joined him, including his younger brother, his cousin, two of his sons, and my mother, who was a photographer with her father in Athens before the second war.
We don't hear a lot about women photographers. We know that there were hundreds of Armenian photographers throughout the Ottoman Empire, but a woman, that's pretty good.
Well, in Turkey, she didn't do any photography. She was too young, but once she moved to Athens, she tells a very sweet story in her video interview that I have about the first photograph she took in the studio in Athens. She was mostly working in the background doing retouching of the photograph. She had a very artistic sensitivity, and they had her doing the touch-ups. But at one point, her father wasn't in the studio, and someone needed a photograph taken, and she did it. And after that, she continued to help in the studio.
Armen, we're going to include some of these photos from the exhibition booklet. And, you know, to the naked eye, the person who's not really engaged in doing the curating and the talking that goes with something like this, it seems like a very benign sort of endeavor. You know, nice family pictures from long time ago, everybody looks really good, this is great. But you're really doing something else.
Yes, we are doing something else, but we're using the visual imagery, which is in itself very intriguing and captivating, and is really accessible to a wide range of people. But we're trying to repopulate really Turkish history by bringing the Armenian story back to the lands where these events took place. So it's not an exhibition about genocide per se, but the genocide and the violence comes up in the context of the story that's being told. I mean, besides the photographs, there is a lot of textual material that goes along with the images that tells the story of the family from the late 19th century up until the point they're forced to leave at the end of 1922. And that textual material I find surprisingly quite engaging for the Turkish audience. You know, usually in a gallery, people look at the wall labels and the images, but here they are actually spending a lot of time reading the story. And it was very well summarized by Armenian Turkish author there. I couldn't have done any of this without the people at Anatolu Kultur.
And really, this is not for you and me, is it?
No, but in one sense, it works for multiple audiences, and in Turkey it works both for the non-Armenian audience there, but for the Turkish Armenian audience there, which is primarily in Istanbul. The exhibitions, obviously, we had in Merzifon and in Diyarbakir, and the one we're going to have in Ankara, there is no local Armenian population. But I think in Istanbul there was quite a bit of interest among the Istanbul Armenians in the exhibition. But it's primarily the way we've organized it there. It's for the Turkish audience in a way for them, as you said, in a benign way, for them to encounter the Armenian story. Much of the historical background is also provided in the exhibition, so it's part of their own history that's been denied to them, that's been erased in the history books, and this is a way of bringing it back and letting them, on their own terms, encounter it. And we'll see. I mean, I see this as just a small endeavor, but hopefully some people's minds get opened up by being intrigued by the images, and then want to find out more about the story and why this happened, why there are no Armenians there.
We are going to include a link to the panel talk that we had at the exhibition a year ago when it first opened in Istanbul. Arsine Khanjan was present as well. And I don't know if you remember, Arsine and I had the exact same reaction, that we don't even have one picture from that era. And here your family has albums. And it seems to me there aren't many families in your position. In other words, you have this resource, and we should all be grateful that you're using it in the way you're using it, instead of just turning it into, the albums under the TV.
Yes, well, as I said at that panel, I felt a very strong obligation because of the material I have and the lack of material on the part of most Armenian families, to make this as widely available, and that's why the exhibition is going to travel outside of Turkey. We're going to have a version of it in Yerevan in the summer of 2015. There is an exhibition also going to take place in London starting next June through October, and then in the United States and in France. So it's going to be exposed to the Armenian diaspora and the Armenian Republic. But I mean, I felt long ago that my family's attempt to document and to capture all this material was more than just for their own family's sake. I think that they were trying to speak to a wider audience. I don't know for sure, but that's the impression I have, given the writings that they produced and many of the photographs that they decided to save. And that's why I felt it was important to share it with as wide an audience, and that's what my goal has been, and that's what I'll be doing for the next few years, given the indulgence of my university.
Yes, the university should be proud. Very quickly, last question.
Sure.
Your grandfather lived beyond 1915 and wasn't kicked out until 1922. Tell us why.
Well, it was because he was needed by the local authorities as the only photographer there. He was in the military. He was a military photographer, but even that wasn't going to save him unless he converted to Islam and converted the immediate family there to Islam and took Turkish identities. So on August 10th, 1915, the family went through a conversion ceremony, and they were all given Turkish names, and they operated as Islamized, Turkified Armenians for the next 3 years until the war ended. But of course, that was just for the external perspective on them. They continued to be Armenians, and there's a fascinating photograph of members of the family celebrating Christmas in January 1916. These Islamized, Turkified Armenians secretly celebrating Christmas. So that's why they were able to survive and stay in place. But all the other relatives, the brothers, the nephews, the uncles in Sivas, in Samsun, in Vezirikopru, in Amasya, they were all lost in those years in 1915 to 1918. So that's what's unique about the story, and that's what's sort of unique about the photography, that you get a perspective on life, what life was like for Armenians who did remain in their hometown and continue to try to survive. And in the process, they rescued almost 30 young men and women and hid them in various places during those years. So there's that part of the story that I also wanted to tell, because they, in a way, they were heroes and very courageous during those years.
It's been 100 years, and we're just beginning to really out loud tell these stories. Thank you, Armen Marsoobian, for sharing this amazing wealth with us and with Turkish and international audiences as well.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to coming to Yerevan and sharing it there.
Looking forward to having you here.
Okay. Bye, Sophie.
Thank you, and thank you for following us on CivilNet.